It's a third line day. We're in gate 50, the gate of values, and the third line is called adaptability. Third lines structurally are lines of adaptation. And here we have a line called adaptability, a natural position for the third line being. Sorry, I've got a squirrel at the window. It makes a change. Usually it's blackbirds. I wonder if I can show you the squirrel. Oh, I think he's gone away again. Um, every now and then, I tell you this, every now and then over my monitor, I see a blackbird just suddenly like flies up like it's been kicked up the bum, which I think is the pigeon actually. It's fun and games out there. Bear says he's going to set up a cam, a blackbird cam, so that if that happens, I can just click it and you can see what I'm talking about. So adaptability, anyway, the third line being laws are there to be broken. In a way, just making a law demands that that law is going to be broken. There will always be something that somebody will have to break. In the exaltation, the moon exalted that when unable to make it alone will naturally align itself with nurturing and protective forces. The awareness that to maintain one's principles and values, the support of others is necessary. When unable to make it alone, which doesn't mean that it's always unable. And of course, they learn that because they're always banging into the other. They're a third line, which doesn't mean that it always works for them, because what happens is that they adapt to the values of whoever they bang into, only to then leave that person and go off and bang into somebody else and adapt to their values. It's an ongoing process. Even when the 50 line 3 bangs into those forces who are supportive of them, it doesn't mean they're going to stay there. Doesn't mean they're going to stay with them any longer than they do with anybody else. If they're aware, they'll come back to them. Bonds made and broken means they can be made again and broken again and again. This line is where we make laws in constitutional assemblies, where everybody gathers around and there are all kinds of people that have their own personal interest in what kind of laws they want to see incorporated into the total law. These are laws that are trying to adapt to circumstances, and they are laws that either fade off the books or get easily broken because they are usually an adaptation for one interest rather than another. And you often find that nobody wants to take responsibility for whatever that law is going to be. Excuse me. Okay, now I'm going to see if this squirrel is, no, he's gone away. Ah, damn. Okay, I nearly got to show you the squirrel. The detriment, a resentment when its natural mental gifts are ignored and is forced to curry favor in order to survive. Discomfort with the awareness that one cannot stand alone by one's principles. These are people who can really be invested in their mind. That's why mind is mentioned in the line. They suffer mental turmoil from their values collapsing. Gate 50 is in a channel in tribal defense circuitry. I was going to have to feed this squirrel, excuse me. Oh, come here. Okay. He actually does come up and eat something. I'll try and get a picture of him because he's so cute. Gate 50, yes, in tribal defense circuitry. It's a channel in the tribal defense circuitry. The channel of nurturing and providing, of custodianship, of preservation, basically of being able to establish the correct values for the caring of children. That's really its genetic basis, and it's not emotional, and it is not social. It's one of the ironies, really, in a way. One of the ironies of the splenic side of the tribal process, anyway. They're just not social, really. It's more about establishing patterns for success and survival. For many children, when they are reared, there is a calculated value system that's being imposed. Many parents impose their value system on their children. It's just how things are. It's not that it's bad. It's not that it's good. It's just how things seem to work these days. The third line is where the gate wakes up, and it says, oh, I have to deal with those creatures at the other side. This means that I can't be me. No, I have to do something with them. I have to adapt and work this out with them so that we can all live together within the law. The law. I always, I don't know if you know the Peter Sellers films, the Pink Panther films. It's always the law. Wherever you see a third line in your design, you're looking at the part of you that is actually aware of the fact that you are not alone. Now, it's very nice to know this. It's very important recognition. I mean, it says I'm going to have to adapt to others, but there is that recognition of the others. Some of us in our third lines can be a bit uncomfortable with that notion. Why do I have to adapt to others? Well, there's that sense of if I have to adapt to others, I've got to learn how to deal with them. And lower trigrams are a bit poor, really, at working well with others. It's not until we get into the fourth line and we get into that friendly networking energy that there is the possibility of getting on with others. Well, it's essential that the fourth line gets on with others, but it doesn't mean that the lower trigram can't. And it doesn't mean that they can't be of enormous value in terms of being clear with each other in any kind of a relationship. The first, second, and third lines have trouble because they're working on what they are, not on what the other is. Only when you get to the third line do you start to get that, the beginnings of the process of having a relationship with others, because the third line is banging into others. They don't necessarily see them until they bang into them. That's their process. This third line, they might know that a law is bad, that it doesn't work and it isn't of value, but it's still the law. And so they end up adapting, recognizing that they have to find a way to work with the other. That can be very beautiful and it can be very uncomfortable. It can be both. In this line of adaptability, we have the archetype for all third lines, and it can be a deeply corruptive force as the third line is leading us into the fourth line of corruption. This is the gate of values. You have your one little aspect and you'll go right down the line with it. You externalize it come hell or high water, and you can corrupt others. You can be corrupted yourself, following that fixed and narrow path that it takes you down. The nature of all of these lines in gate 50 is awareness. The third line has an intuition for knowing when to adapt and whom to adapt to. It's an intuition, a gift. The gift of the fourth line is the intuition to smell corruption, to know who is corrupt and who is corruptible. Before you can get to that point, you have to be corrupted yourself. You have to see your own corruptibility. Now, the language around some of these lines can be difficult. We have our prejudices around certain words, but it's a mechanical part of the process. In and of themselves, these words are no more positive or negative than any other terminology. So gate 3, line 3, is the grounding, and it's called survival. Adaptability and survival, they go rather well together, really. Third lines can be very courageous, and we see that quality in both of these two lines. The moon is still in gate 45, the manifestor throat gate, speaking for the tribe, saying, I have, and gathering together all of the skills and experiences that have come before in order to educate the tribe so they can be materially successful. The moon moves to gate 12 at 11:02, another manifestor throat gate, the gate of caution and standstill. This is individual, and it's also the only social channel in individual circuitry. And yet still within that sociability is an uncertainty. Will the individual be accepted for what they have to say? And so we find the caution. It's a throat gate that is often silent, and it's a gate of aloneness. Next is gate 15 in the G center. The moon transits in at 2046. This is the gate of extremes, the love of humanity or not. There is the possibility of finding balance between extremes or expressing your identity through extremes. It's a very magnetic gate. And this quality can actually magnetize the rest of the activations in the chart. Do you have this gate consistently in your design? Have you noticed the magnetic quality of it? Finally, the moon moves into gate 52, keeping still mountain. This is a root center gate, and the moon transits in at 6:38 tomorrow morning. This is a temporary and self-imposed action for the benefit of assessment. Are you aware of being able to sit still and concentrate a little bit more when this format gate is activated? Or do you feel restless and uncomfortable with the inaction that it imposes? Sorry not to be able to show you the squirrel. I'm now in blackbird land and also pigeons. It's got a bit colder, so I think they're a lot hungrier than they have been. Anyway, and all the berries have gone as well, haven't they? No more berries. Berries are all off the trees. A lot of the leaves are off the trees. We're well and truly into autumn. We actually went sort of kicked a few leaves around on our walk this morning. Thank you for joining me. Tomorrow will be a fourth line. We move into corruption tomorrow. So come and check that one out. I will see you then. And as always, my love to you all, and go gently.